This is Real Talk with Preshpen, where we say the things people are afraid to say out loud.
What happens when you say I do to a life you never wanted?
Welcome back to Real Talk with Preshpen. I'm Preshpen, and if you're new here, let me warn you right now, we do not do polite. We do not do careful. We do not protect feelings on this show. We protect truth. And tonight's truth is one that will make a lot of people very uncomfortable. Marriage, the dream, the goal, the thing your mother prays for every night, the thing your pastor preaches about every Sunday, the thing society tells you is the finish line of a successful life. But what if marriage, this sacred, celebrated, non-negotiable institution, is simply not for everyone? And what if the real damage isn't people staying single, but people getting married when they had no business doing so? I have two guests tonight, and I want to be clear, I did not invite them here to agree. I invited them here to fight. Respectfully, but to fight. Dr. Ethan Clark is a life coach and author who has built an entire career helping people unapologetically choose singlehood. He believes marriage is not a destination, it's a choice. And not everyone should make it. Rebecca Lawson married at 26, stayed for 11 years, left with nothing but scars and a story that will shake you to your core. She is not here to perform healing. She is here to tell the raw, unfiltered truth of what happens when a woman marries a life she never wanted. Dr. Clark, Rebecca, let's get into it.
I'm ready. And I'll say this from the jump, I am not anti-marriage. I am anti-pressure. I am anti-forcing human beings into an institution they were never built for and then calling their suffering a personal failure.
And I'll be honest with you, nobody told me I had a choice. Nobody. And I want every woman watching this to hear what that silence cost you. That's powerful.
Segment 1. First Blood.
Rebecca, let's start with you. You were 26. You were an adult. Nobody held a gun to your head. So why did you marry a man you didn't love enough? Because enough wasn't the standard anyone gave me. The standard was, is he employed? Is he a good man? Does he go to church? Does he want children? Check, 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 check. Nobody asked me, do you actually want this life? Nobody asked me, are you ready? The question was never about me. It was about the checklist. And I ticked every box on that checklist and walked straight into 11 years of misery.
And that checklist is exactly what I fight against every single day. We have reduced one of the most significant decisions a human being will ever make to a checklist. Is he tall enough? Does he earn enough? Is she from a good family? And we completely bypass the most important question of all. Are you the kind of person who should be married right now or at all?
But Dr. Clark, that argument cuts both ways. Aren't you just giving people a sophisticated excuse to run from commitment?
No, and I want to push back on that hard because it is the laziest counter argument people reach for. Running from commitment and choosing intentional singlehood are not the same thing. One is fear, the other is self-knowledge. And confusing the two is exactly how we end up shaming people who are genuinely thriving alone into believing something is broken in them.
But how does anyone know which one they are before they've actually tried? You can sit in a coaching session all day long, but until you've lived inside a marriage you didn't want, you don't actually know what you were running from.
So your argument is everyone should try marriage just to find out if they want it?
That's not what I said.
That's what it's
I said you can't know from the outside.
And I'm saying therapy, self-work, and honest reflection can get you a lot closer to that answer than a wedding certificate can.
Hold on. Because Rebecca just said something important and I don't want it to get buried. Rebecca, are you saying that going through the marriage, even the bad one, taught you something about yourself that you couldn't have learned any other way? Yes. As painful as that is to admit, yes. I know who I am now in a way I didn't at 26. But the price I paid for that knowledge was 11 years of my life, 11 years. And I want to know, was there no cheaper way to learn it?
That is exactly my point. That is my entire point. The work I do exists so that people don't have to pay that price. So that a 24-year-old woman can sit across from me and say, I feel pressure to get married and I don't know if I want to, and leave that conversation with clarity instead of a ring.
You know what's striking to me? Neither of you is actually talking about marriage. You're talking about permission. Permission to question, permission to wait, permission to choose differently. And maybe that's where the real fight starts. Because the moment someone says, what if I don't want the life everyone expects me to want? The room gets very uncomfortable. And tonight, we're just getting started.
Segment 2. The fight gets personal.
Dr. Clark, let me ask you something uncomfortable. You coach people towards singlehood. You celebrate it. You've built a brand around it. Isn't there a part of you that needs people to stay single to stay in business?
That's a fair question, Preshpen, but you know, my marketing team would probably love that.
So you're admitting it? Would that affect your practice?
Not at all. If everyone suddenly became happily self-aware tomorrow, I'd probably lose half my clients.
Only half?
The other half would still need help figuring out why they're texting their ex at 1 a.m.
Okay, that's fair. Finally, we found something both sides agree on.
But seriously, that's a fair question. And here's my answer. About a third of my clients end up getting married after working with me because they did the work, found clarity, and chose marriage freely, I don't have a single outcome I'm selling self-awareness. What people do with it after that is entirely up to
But
them.
not everyone has access to a life coach, Dr. Clark. Not everyone can afford clarity coaching. What about the woman in Lagos, the woman in rural Georgia, the woman whose entire community will disown her if she dares suggest she might not want to get married? What does your framework do for Rebecca?
Our framework is designed to empower all women, including those. That's a genuinely important challenge. And I'll be honest, my work is more accessible to people with a certain level of privilege. That's a gap I think about often. But the answer to that gap isn't to keep pressuring people into marriages. The answer is to expand access to the conversation.
The conversation doesn't feed her children. The conversation doesn't protect her from community shame. Some women don't marry because they want to. They marry because it's the only safety net available to them. And you want to call that a choice? Rebecca just said something that I think is going to divide this room. She's saying for some women, marriage isn't a romantic decision. It's a survival decision. Dr. Clark, can you argue against a survival decision?
That's a tough question, Presh. Survival is survival. But I will say this, a society that has made marriage a woman's only path to safety is a broken society. And the solution to that broken society is not to celebrate the chains, it's to dismantle them.
Easy to dismantle chains when you're not wearing them. Say that again, Rebecca. Easy to dismantle chains when you are not wearing them. Dr. Clark sits in his beautiful single life, which I genuinely respect, and tells women who have no other option that they should choose differently. Choose how, with what resources, with what community support, with what alternative.
I hear your anger, and it's valid, but I want to separate two conversations. One is about systemic inequality that uses marriage to control women. I agree with you completely on that. The other is about people in relatively free circumstances who still choose marriage out of social pressure rather than genuine desire. Those are two different conversations, and we keep collapsing them into one.
Because for most women, they're the same conversation, and that's where this gets uncomfortable. Because what I'm hearing from both of you is that freedom, whether they can afford not to, is not distributed equally. Some people are deciding whether they want marriage. Others are deciding whether they can afford not to, and those are not the same choices, not even close. I want to push this conversation somewhere neither of you expects. Because I think we've spent the entire night talking about marriage without talking about loneliness. And that may be the real story.
Segment 3, the loneliness question.
I think we're dancing around the real fear, the thing that keeps people awake at night, the thing nobody wants to admit, loneliness. Because if we're being honest, a lot of people don't get married because they're in love. They get married because they're terrified of ending up alone. Absolutely. I know women who married men they barely liked because 35 was approaching. And suddenly every family gathering became an interrogation. Every wedding invitation became a reminder. Every birthday felt like a deadline.
It's a real pressure. A deadline?
Because that's exactly what it feels like, especially for women. People act like there's an invisible countdown clock hanging over your head. And once you reach a certain age, everybody starts looking at you differently, like you failed some test.
And that's one of the cruelest lies society tells. Because loneliness and being alone are not the same thing. I've met married people who are profoundly lonely. Marriage doesn't automatically solve loneliness. Sometimes it just gives loneliness a roommate.
That's a line. Say that again.
Marriage doesn't automatically solve loneliness.
I understand exactly what he means. There were nights I lay beside my husband and felt more alone than I ever did after my divorce. Because physical presence is an emotional connection. You can share a house, share a bed, share children, and still feel completely unseen. That statement is going to hit a lot of people. Because we've romanticized marriage as the cure for isolation, as though putting two people together automatically creates intimacy.
Exactly, and if you can't sit alone with yourself peacefully, marriage won't magically fix that. It often magnifies it. Marriage is not a replacement for identity. It's not a replacement for purpose, and it's definitely not a replacement for self-worth.
But let's be fair, there are also people who genuinely want partnership, not because they're afraid, not because society told them to, they simply want to share life with someone. And I don't want this conversation to make it sound like that's somehow weak.
I agree completely. Wanting partnership is beautiful. Needing partnership to feel complete is where problems begin.
Now we're getting somewhere. Because maybe the real question isn't, should everyone get married? Maybe the real question is, can you be whole without it? For a long time, I thought the answer was no. After my divorce, I felt broken. Not because I missed my husband, but like I'd failed, like I had lost my place in the world. And it took years to realize something. I wasn't grieving the marriage. I was grieving the identity people had attached to it. Wow. People celebrate you when you get married. They introduce you differently, treat you differently, respect you differently. And when that disappears, you start asking yourself, who am I now?
And that's exactly why self-identity matters. Because if your worth is built entirely on a role, wife, husband, partner, mother, father, then the moment that role changes, your entire sense of self collapses with it.
So let me ask both of you something, and I want a direct answer. No philosophy, no coaching language, no inspirational quotes, simple answer. Can a person live a complete, meaningful, fulfilling life without ever getting married?
I agree. Yes.
But most people won't believe that until they actually meet someone living it. Interesting. Both of you answered yes. And yet millions of people watching right now probably still don't believe it, which tells me this debate isn't really about marriage. It's about imagination. Can people even imagine a different path? Or has society sold them only one version of a successful life? I'm going to ask the question that might destroy both of your arguments. Because what if the problem isn't marriage? And what if the problem isn't being single? What if the problem is us?
Segment 4, the mirror.
Tonight we've blamed society, we've blamed pressure, we've blamed culture, we've blamed expectations, and some of that blame is deserved. But I want to ask a question neither of you is going to like. What if the problem isn't marriage? What if the problem isn't singlehood? What if the problem is that people refuse to be honest with themselves?
I think there's truth in that. A lot of truth. People often know more than they admit. The issue is that honesty has consequences, and consequences are uncomfortable.
Meaning?
Meaning some people know they don't want marriage, but they're afraid of disappointing their families. Some know they're in the wrong relationship, but they're afraid of starting over. Some know they're lonely, but instead of addressing that loneliness, they look for someone to distract them from it. People aren't always lacking answers. Sometimes they're avoiding them.
I agree, but I want to be careful here, because honesty sounds simple when you're saying it from a stage. It's harder when your entire identity is tied to the outcome. I wasn't dishonest because I was weak. I was dishonest because I was scared.
Scared of what?
Being different, being left behind, being the woman people whispered about, the woman everyone felt sorry for, the woman who kept showing up to weddings alone. I was terrified of becoming that person. And then I became her. And you know what shocked me? The world didn't end, the sky didn't fall, my friends didn't disappear. Most of the fears that controlled my life were stories I had written in my own head.
That's powerful. That's one of the most important things you've said all night. Because fear loves certainty. Fear convinces us that if we don't follow the script, disaster is guaranteed. But most of the time, the script is the very thing making us miserable.
So let me ask both of you something personal. No theories, no statistics, no professional answers, just honesty. Becca, if you could go back to your 26-year-old self standing on that wedding day, what would you say? I would tell her to trust her heart and not be afraid. I wouldn't tell her to run. I wouldn't tell her to stay. I'd tell her to stop listening to everyone else for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and ask herself one question. If nobody was watching, would you still be here? Because I never asked myself that, not once. That's powerful. Dr. Clark, same question. What would you tell your younger self?
I would tell him that being understood is overrated. People spend years trying to convince everyone around them that their choices make sense, and sometimes they never will. Sometimes the people you love won't understand your path, and that's okay, you still have to live it.
That's powerful. So both of you arrived at the same lesson from opposite directions. Rebecca learned not to live for approval. You learned not to seek permission. Interesting. Maybe that's because the destination was never marriage or singlehood. Maybe the destination was freedom.
Exactly, and freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. Freedom is being able to say yes because you mean it, and no because you mean that too.
There it is, the word we've been circling all night, freedom. Because maybe the tragedy isn't that some people stay single. And maybe the tragedy isn't that some people get married. Maybe the tragedy is living a life you didn't choose. We've debated marriage, we've debated freedom, we've debated loneliness, but we're out of time. So I'm gonna ask each of you for one final statement, not for each other, for the person watching this tonight, the person lying awake wondering if they're living the life they actually want. For years, I thought my life belonged to everyone except me. My family had an opinion. My friends had an opinion. My church had an opinion. Society had an opinion. Everybody seemed to know what I should do, except me. And because I never stopped to ask myself what I wanted, I spent years becoming someone I didn't recognize. I became the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect example, and somewhere along the way, I disappeared. I became a ghost living inside a life that looked beautiful from the outside. If you're watching this tonight, I want you to hear me carefully. You only get one life. Do not spend it performing for an audience that will never be satisfied. Because one day you'll wake up and realize the years you sacrificed trying to become what everyone wanted were the years you never got to be yourself. And trust, the years I spent performing a life instead of living one are years I can never get back. So whatever choice you make, marriage, singlehood, something in between, make sure it belongs to you, not them. You, Dr. Clark.
I think Rebecca said something profound, because ultimately this conversation was never about marriage. Marriage isn't the hero, singlehood isn't the hero, freedom is. And freedom begins with honesty. Not honesty with your parents, not honesty with your partner, not honesty with society, honesty with yourself, the kind of honesty that forces you to sit alone and answer uncomfortable questions. What do I actually want? What am I afraid of?
That's powerful.
What am I pretending not to know? Most people don't suffer because they made the wrong choice. They suffer because they made someone else's choice, and then spent years trying to convince themselves it was their own. If you want marriage beautiful, pursue it wholeheartedly. Will always feel lighter. Your yes has to be yours, and your no has to be yours too, otherwise neither means anything.
Tonight, you heard two very different stories. One woman who lived the consequences of saying yes when she wasn't sure. One man who built a career helping ask whether they should say it at all. But maybe the lesson isn't that marriage is good or bad. Maybe the lesson is much simpler. The biggest decisions of your life should never be made out of fear. Not fear of loneliness, not fear of judgment, not fear of being different. Fear is a terrible architect. It builds lives that look stable from the outside and feel empty on the inside. So tonight, before you worry about finding the right person, ask yourself a harder question. Are you living the right life? Because if the answer is no, no relationship in the world can fix that for you. I'm Preshpen, and this has been Real Talk with Preshpen, where we say the things people are afraid to say out loud. Goodbye.
Thank you for spending this time with us. The questions we've asked today are meant to stay with you long after this episode ends. Share your thoughts in the comments. Unjust time questioning, keep learning, and keep growing.